Hello everyone, back tuning into the GWV Sunday Round-Up. So it's a couple of weeks since we last did a Sunday Round-Up, because last week we released the NAO forecast for the winter of 2017-18, and that went down very well. A lot of people seem to enjoy that. Current viewing rate, it's had over 2,000 views in a week, so it's doing very well. But that meant that we didn't do a Sunday Roundup last week, so we've got a bit of a bumper edition for you this week, catching up on everything that's happened. We're going to have a look at the usual eclectic mix that we do on a Sunday. So we're going to have a look at the Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation, QBO, what's going on with the oceans, and also whether the next week, 10 days, there'll be other things mixed in as well. So, with so much going on, we better crack on. But we're going to start off with the situation today, because we've got risk of some showers coming up today. This is the latest radar picture from the weather outlook, and at the moment the showery rain is across Scotland and Northern Ireland. It's mostly dry for England and Wales. But the GFS is forecasting a chance of some showers this afternoon. So this is the precipitation forecast for midday, when we see the chance of, well, we know we've got the area of rain across Scotland and also Northern Ireland, but there is a chance of some showers beginning to break out by then across parts of England and Wales. But it's really this afternoon that those showers increase across England and Wales, particularly eastern parts of England. So Yorkshire and Lincolnshire have been becoming the focus for the showers down into the North Midlands perhaps as well through the course of this afternoon. There is enough Cape there to be suggesting the chance of some rumbles of thunder mixed in with those showers. Into the evening, the showers will rumble away into the North Sea and things will calm down. But tomorrow we might get more showers, and perhaps more widely distributed compared to today. So the atmosphere is starting to wobble now, and we could well see some fairly widespread and heavy showers through the course of tomorrow. And again, there is enough Cape and lifted there to be suggesting rumbles of thunder at the very least, maybe even some flashes of lightning as well. So it certainly seems like the atmosphere is beginning to wobble a little bit, and that could lead us to quite a wet day in the south on Tuesday, although the exact timing of this rain, its exact position for Tuesday, is quite uncertain. So I'll just show you the precipitation forecast for Tuesday afternoon, and we see that there is a risk of some quite heavy rain down across the south, and then potentially getting a little bit more widespread through the course of Tuesday night into Wednesday. But again, it is restricted to the south, generally south of the M4 at the moment. If it gets trended much further south, and it's actually going to finish up in the Channel, so we don't want to see that trended any more further south unless you want it dry. And most people probably want a bit of rain now. It's been a while down in the south since we had a decent drop of rain. So still uncertainty about this rain on Tuesday, but definitely a risk of showers today, and then more widely tomorrow. Just have a look at what's happened in June. So the climate statistics have been updated for June at the UK Met Office. Got the monthly averages in now for the UK. Of course, we have the CET right at the start of July. That gets updated very quickly, but it takes a few days to get the anomalies updated for the UK. So this is how temperatures were looking in June 2017 compared to 61 to 1990. All places coming out with a warmer than average month, but you see a real northwest southeast split in terms of the extent of the warmth. So in the far northwest of Scotland, actually temperature anomalies there are just around half a degree above average, but down across the southeast of England the temperature anomaly is over 2 degrees above average. So it's a hot month in the southeast. Was a little bit above average further north and west, but not to the same extent. Comparing it to a more modern average, 81 to 2010, because 61 to 1990 is a cold temperature average, so compared to 81 to 2010, we see but even there, in the far southeast, actually we're over 2.5 degrees above average. Most places coming out around 1 to 2 degrees above average. Again, the northwest of Scotland and possibly Northern Ireland is closer to normal. But again, all places come out with a warmer than average month in June. So it was a pretty warm start to the summer Now, this is quite interesting. This is precipitation, the rainfall averages for June 2017. See a real north-south split here. So for Scotland and Northern Ireland, and also parts of Wales, we come out with a really wet month, actually. We're over 200% of average across some parts of Scotland and northeastern England. But get down into the south, into the Midlands, central southern England, and there we find that it's actually a bit drier than average. So for example, here in the South Midlands, we're at around 50-75% of average. So a real north-south split in June 2017 for precipitation. Again, it's the same story if you look at 81 to 2010. Significantly wetter than average month of the north, a little bit drier than average down in the south, or near normal anyway, and a bit drier than average, particularly through the Midlands. So it has been a very unusual month in some ways, coming out warmer than average in all places, but wet in the north, very wet month in the north, much drier down in the south. And that closes the door on June 2017, of course. Right, moving on to solar activity then. So this is the solar disk on our side of this today from solarham.net. We can see that we have got one sunspot here, sunspot number 2665. But actually, solar activity is at very low levels today. Here's the GWV summer season daily solar activity tracker, been updated by our friend James Ackrill, and we can see that we're roughly where we was a couple of weeks ago, actually, with solar activity. So we're still sort of bobbing along at a low level of activity, but haven't yet dropped down definitively into solar minimum. Our last sort of rapid spike up in solar activity was just here back in April. Then very quickly, we couldn't sustain that for very long, so very quickly we dropped down to a low level of solar activity sunspot numbers, and that's roughly where we stayed ever since. So some days we are getting spotlessness on the sun, and we are running that over several days occasionally, but then we still get these days where we do have sunspots occurring. So we still haven't yet arrived at solar minimum. We remain with low levels of sunspot activity, but haven't yet dropped definitively down into solar minimum. The trend lines indicated by the thick green and thick orange line, they're sort of flatlining at the moment, really. And again, basically, same as where we was a couple of weeks ago when we did the last Sunday Roundup. There's been no real drop downwards yet with the trend lines. Albeit, of course, we are moving downwards through the solar cycle. So it won't be long before we see those trend lines taking another drop down towards solar minimum. We'll arrive at solar minimum in around a year to 18 months' time. Moving on to the oceans, this is the latest image of the oceans from NOAA, specifically interested in the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. This was taken on the 6th of July. So dealing with the Pacific first of all, ENSO continues to stall. The El Nino shows no sign of showing its hand. Actually, we're seeing again a little bit of cooling occurring over towards the eastern side of the Equatorial Pacific, over towards Peru, just here. Definitely no signal for El Nino at the moment. In the northern part of the Pacific Ocean, it looks like the cold PDO is beginning to strengthen. This horseshoe of cold just here that we see in the northeastern part of the Pacific Ocean, that is indicative of the cold PDO. So it looks like the PDO is moving back into a colder phase after 2 or 3 years of being quite warm. It does wax and wane, of course, the PDO. Looks like we're moving in towards a colder phase of the PDO at the moment. In the Atlantic, it's quite warm still in the tropical part of the Atlantic Ocean, particularly over towards Africa. Further north, it's actually quite cold in the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean. So still this north-south split, really, in terms of sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic Ocean. Just dealing with the SOI, this is the Southern Oscillation Index, because that's updated for June at the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia. This chart's very interesting, actually, because it shows you every month's SOI going right the way back to the 1800s. You can go right way back to 1876 with this. It shows you every month's worth of Southern Oscillation Index numbers back to 1876. When the Southern Oscillation Index is negative, that's telling you that the atmosphere, and it's sort of reflecting the atmospheric setup between Darwin and Tahiti in the Southern Ocean. So when the SOI is negative, it tells you that the atmosphere is in an El Nino type setup. A positive SOI number shows that the atmosphere in the Southern Ocean is in a La Nina, cold event type setup. For June, we actually went quite negative with the SOI. We went down to minus 10.4 for the monthly number for June's SOI, which is really quite negative, actually, particularly compared to what we saw in May at plus 0.5, so more or less neutral with the SOI in May. So you would think that because June had quite a negative SOI, we would have seen warming of the Pacific Ocean, but actually we haven't really seen that at all. So it's a little bit odd what's going on at the moment in the Southern Ocean. But it does appear that El Nino is increasingly going out the window. There's no real sign of it strengthening. If it is going to happen, we're going to have to get on with it, because we're getting later into the year now. I suspect we're probably going to stay around ENSO neutral. July's SOI, and these are preliminary daily SOI numbers, are coming out significantly more positive, actually. So for the first couple of days of July, 1st, 2nd and 3rd, we did have negative SOI numbers at minus 7, minus 15 and minus 8. But since then, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th of July, we've gone positive with the SOI. So it may well be that we see for July's overall monthly SOI number, it might not be as negative as June. And if that does happen, then I think we can say definitively, but it's very unlikely we're going to get an El Nino event this year. Moving on to the QBO, there's been developments there, the quasi-biennial oscillation, which is really telling you the strength of the zonal westerlies. When the QBO is in its westerly phase, the zonal westerlies are strengthened. When it's in its easterly phase, the zonal westerlies in the northern hemisphere are weakened. And it's one of the things we look at in winter to determine whether we're more likely, it doesn't guarantee anything, but whether we're more likely to get a colder winter. Because when you're in an easterly QBO, because the zonal westerlies are in a weakened state, that can coincide with an increased chance of a colder winter. On this chart, which is from the University of Berlin, we can see the easterly QBO depicted by these white areas. The westerly QBOs are depicted by the grey areas. Now, we know that we should have had an easterly QBO for winter of 2015-16, but it failed, and actually westerly QBO should have just continued, essentially. So you can see this huge grey area just here. That shouldn't really be there. But we are now moving into the easterly QBO quite definitively. You can see that by this area just here. So within the atmosphere, the QBO is going easterly at an increasingly low level. That's where we are now, moving down the atmosphere, down the levels of the atmosphere. We're moving into an easterly QBO, and I think we can say with good confidence now that we are likely to be in quite a strong easterly QBO by the time we get through to the winter of 2017. 2018. This is from NOAA, and this shows again every month's worth of QBO numbers going, how far back do we go? This right way back to 1948. Again, a negative number is an easterly QBO. A positive number is going to be that's going to be a westerly QBO. So if we run down, we can see that we had a long run of positive numbers starting in the middle of 2015, just here with that westerly QBO, which carried on throughout 2018 2016 as well. Through 2016, we should have gone into an ECQBO, but it failed. That continues into 2017. So we have had a very, very long westerly QBO lasting pretty much 2 years or more. But the number has very suddenly gone negative. So we can see that we've got January's number just here, QBO number coming out at plus 14.92. February's number comes out at plus 14.78. Very westerly QBO still. March comes out at 14 plus 3.5. April 13.88. That's all westerly QBO continuing. But then we get through to May and we go to plus 8.01, so gradually reducing the QBO, and June comes out at minus 3.18. We've gone negative and had our first negative month since here, May 2015. So the QBO is shifting into its negative phase now, and it's likely to strengthen through the remainder of this year. By the time we get over here to the final months of 2017, we're likely to be seeing some very negative numbers, and we'll be in the middle of quite a strong easterly QBO, and that is going to weaken, or it could well weaken, the zonal westerlies. It might give us an increased risk of a colder winter, but there are plenty of ECQBOs that don't have ECQBO winters, that aren't cold, but don't have cold winters. So it's not a guarantee of anything, but it's one of the things that we do look at to see whether the zonal westerlies are likely to be stronger or weak. We've had a long run of strong zonal westerlies since the middle of 2015. Looks like things are starting to change now. Very quickly looking at Siberian snow cover. All the snow is pretty much gone now. Still a little bit left in the very, very far northern corner of Siberia, but essentially now we're snow free across Russia and Siberia. Won't be looking at that again until September, when the snow cover will begin to re-emerge. The Arctic Oscillation observed and forecast chart next then, and the black line here tells us where we've been with the Arctic Oscillation. Red lines at the end where GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic Oscillation to go. So we had quite a run of negativity of the Arctic Oscillation actually through April and May. It carried on into June as well. Since then though, since around the middle of June, we've gone more positive with the Arctic Oscillation. So we've gone back into a positive phase. And the red lines with GFS ensembles forecasting the Arctic Oscillation to stay generally on the positive side of neutral. It's not a strong positive Arctic Oscillation, but we're on the positive side of neutral going in to the second half of July. That's this period just here, if we believe the GFS ensembles. The AO and its cousin, the NAO, generally move in blocks of around 3 or 4 months. So you can probably expect this positive phase of the Arctic Oscillation to carry us through the remainder of the summer. The North Atlantic Oscillation, same idea. The black line here tells us where we've been with the NAO. Red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to go. So again, we have this negative phase of the NAO through April into May and into June as well. From the middle of June, a change occurred where we went into a positive phase of the NAO, and that's where we are right now. We're positive with the North Atlantic Oscillation, quite strongly positive, and the GFS ensembles are forecasting things to stay that way as well. So we have the AO and the NAO both in positive territory, both on the positive side of neutral, and this tells us that we're likely to see a strengthened Azores high. The Azores high, the ridge from the Azores high, tends to be what gives us our warm spells of weather through the summer. So I would suspect we'll continue to see further warmth and ridges building from the Azores high over the coming couple of weeks if the Arctic Oscillation and North Atlantic Oscillations forecasts are right. Remember, these are just indexes that are telling you what the atmosphere is doing. They're not actually driving anything within themselves. But when both the indexes are positive like this, the Azores high in summer is going to be strengthened, and it should be throwing ridges in from the Azores, and that's what gives us our summer conditions. So essentially I would expect pretty warm weather to continue into the second half of July. Having said that, we are going to have a more unsettled phase over the next week, and it will be a bit cooler as well. So these are the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. The red line here is the 30-year temperature average, upper air temperature average. A little bit above average at the moment, but in a few days it looks like we're going to go a bit cooler than average, really from around Tuesday lasting through towards the end of the week. So it's going to be a bit cooler, still warm enough in the sun of course, but it is going to be a bit cooler compared to what we've had for quite a while down in the south. After that, over weekend into next week, looks like the temperature trend is to start to move upwards again. You would expect that with the AO and the NAO in positive territory. You would expect the Azores high to be pushing warmer air towards us from the subtropical Atlantic. Later on in the ensemble, which is this period just here, it's a long way out, it's going in towards the final week of July. There's just a few hints beginning to appear there of quite a big lift up in temperatures. We may have our next heat wave in the last week of July. That's a very, very long way off. It's in the unreliable time frame of the GFS ensembles and the GFS model output, but just keep it at the back of your mind that the last week of July might give us our next really hot spell of weather. For precipitation, it looks quite unsettled actually over the coming week. Had a long run of dry weather down in the south, as we saw from the climate averages from UK Met. It was dry on average in parts of the Midlands and southern England in June. That's continued really into July as well. Looks like there will be some rain coming up. These spikes just here are associated with that wet weather that I showed you, possible for Tuesday and into Wednesday. Could be really wet down in the south then. Although, I have to emphasise, that rain is by run being trended further and further south. So it might be by the time we get to Tuesday, in the end, the rain is being pushed into the Channel and northern parts of France. But at the moment, it does look as though Tuesday into Wednesday should deliver some quite wet weather. After that, it looks showery, really going into the second half of July, this period just here. Although there's probably a bit of a drying trend later on just here, against right at the extended range of the GFS model output, but it does look as though the final week of July might turn dry, and potentially there are quite a few hot outlier members appearing there. Potentially it turns hot as well in the final week of July. Very long way off. Temperature anomalies for the next week. This going from the 9th through to 17th of July. Coming out a little bit cooler than average. Actually, I haven't been able to say that much this summer so far. So a little bit of a cooler week coming up. Definitely in the week ahead, and also more unsettled as well. Precipitation anomalies for the next week, the 9th to the 17th of July. They are more or less on the wetter than average side as well, albeit not a great deviation, particularly so for southern parts of the country, just where we could do with the rain. So finally, we're just going to deal with the GFS and the ECMWF models for the next week's 10 days, starting with GFS on Wednesday. This is midnight Wednesday. There's that area of low pressure that could be bringing a bit of a soaking down to the south. That pushes out of the way into Thursday, and then we re-establish westerly wind. Go through into Friday. It looks a little bit unsettled again. Another trough is pushing through to the north. However, notice the Azores high is strong. It's at 1,030 millibars. It's starting to move a ridge over towards us, and that sets us up potentially for quite a dry and warm weekend down in the south. This is Saturday, 15th of July, when the ridge from the Azores high is building in across the southern part of the country, delivering a lot of dry and warm weather there. More unsettled and showery further to the north. Go through to Sunday, and the south remains quite warm and dry with the Azores ridge against a little bit more unsettled further north. And then beyond that, running up towards day 10, it all starts to turn a little bit messy. We might be indicating there by day 10, which is Wednesday the 19th of July, we might be indicating a chance of some thundery showers or thundery rain in towards the south and southeast. But essentially, we still have a bit of a ridge from the Azores High, so probably still a fair amount of dry weather there going up to day 10, which is Wednesday 19th of July. East India, finally, again, we have for Thursday, a little bit of a ridge building from the Azores High, but it's still quite unsettled as we end next week. But then into the weekend of 15th, 16th of July next weekend, we get the bill from the Azores High down in the south, so a lot of dry and warm weather in southern parts of the country next weekend. Lots of more unsettled with some showers and longer spells of rain further north. And then we go through running up to day 10, and the Eastern Earth this morning wants to turn things a little bit more unsettled again. So the north and west turns quite dull and wet as we get to Wednesday 19th of July, which is day 10. More unsettled there, and some of that rain could be getting down into the south as well. So this middle part of July looks like we're going into a rather more unsettled period. How much rain we get in the south, I'm not sure. It's the focus really at the moment is on that wet weather on Tuesday, but if it gets pushed any further south, then a lot of places are probably going to miss it. So let's wait and see what happens with that. Beyond that, I think we do get a nice weekend down in the south next weekend. A lot of dry, warm weather then, and then maybe turning a bit more unsettled after that, running up towards day 10. And of course, we've got to be thinking a bit about the chance of our next heat wave possibility coming along for the final week of July. That's a very long way off, but the GFS ensembles could be picking up on something there. Right, it's been an extended Sunday Roundup today, on for 25 minutes. Hope you found it interesting and informative. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.